Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about something that just popped up today. Nothing really I've ever tested, and that is that aim assist is different depending on what weapon you're using. Obviously, there's always been kind of thing in previous Call of Duties if you're using an LMG or rifle or a shotgun, obviously the aim assist you expect it to be a little bit different, but comparing the Modern Warfare MP5 versus the Cold War MP5, we ended up with some scenarios where it feels like there's actually different types of aim assist. That's what we're going to talk about today. If you enjoyed the video, learned something new, please do me a favor, hit the like button. If you're brand new and want to find your way back for more Call of Duty content, we're getting very, very close to 1 million subscribers. So if you do enjoy the content, please double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. And reminder, until the 10th of this month, Gfuel is currently 30% off using code JGOD at checkout or the link near the top of the description. And this actually came about because Teep felt that there was something off in the game, especially now that we've gone back to the SMG meta. You're kind of experimenting with Modern Warfare and Cold War, and you notice some differences with aim assist. In case you guys don't know who Teep is, he's probably one of the best players in Warzone. If you hadn't checked him out, he has a high KD, high win-loss, high number of kills. So if you're going to learn something from somebody, he is probably one of the best players to learn from, being a former Call of Duty pro, coach, all that. He's been there, done that. Check him out over on Twitch as well as YouTube, which will both be linked down in the description if you want to check him out. But pretty much what happens here, he says, bro, some of you try this for me and tell me if I'm crazy. I think Modern Warfare guns have more aim assist slowdown than Cold War guns. And there is a little bit of truth to this, as we'll see. So here is the Cold War MP5. He ends up putting like one specific barrel on it, and we're going to find out why this adjusts things pretty easily. And you kind of get a feel of the way aim assist works. Obviously, there's a little bit of a drag factor. And then the Modern Warfare, you can see it feels a little bit stickier, like just in the overall bubble, you could see there's a little bit of a difference there. Then he proceeded to go ahead and tick Kar 98 with the regular sniper scope versus the Pellington with the 3X, which have the same magnification as we'll show, and it ended up being with similar issues. Like he just says it doesn't feel right. Like it feels like, no, either way there's aim assist, but it feels like the Kar 98 has a little bit more grabbiness to it. And we're going to explain the mechanic and how you can actually find out which guns have a little bit more aim assist or what setups will feel like they have more aim assist depending on how you want to use them. So let's go ahead and get into a couple different breakdowns. Obviously, that led to this conversation, sparked it. So we were going through doing a lot of testing on stream. I basically lined it up. I had Snake Eyes, who's helped me with tons of tests. He's a moderator in the Discord and stuff like that. And he lives relatively close, so he's able to help jump in, get some testing done on occasion. So pretty much what we did is we started the rotation at a certain point, press play, and I rotated 5 times. And then this would kind of give us an idea of how much slowdown there is. And if there was more slowdown, it would take you longer to go across because it would take you longer to cross over the target. And initially it was looking like, not a big deal. Or maybe it's promising. Oh man, it kept going back and forth. Honestly, we're going back and forth, talking to chat, getting engagement involved. And we'll also talk a little bit about the scale FOV enabled or disabled and kind of how that will impact the way your crosshairs move, because we found direct correlations with that type of stuff as well. Based off what we already knew about it, it kind of applied to this. So we did some of that testing and it looked like, man, no big deal. All right, cool. And what the biggest problem that came into play is the magnification of zoom, which we'll talk about that. Let's go ahead and talk about the magnification of zoom. And then we'll get into some other of the data. So what I want to do is show you here is basically an overlaid image. We're going to have the overlaid image, and you can see right here, I have the different layers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this, and you can see the iron sights. If we pay attention to the iron sights, you can see that the length of the barrel changes it. So with no stock, this is how no stock looks. If we go to put on no stock and we put the M16 barrel, now the gun is closer, it feels like closer to our face. And then we can get rid of the M16 barrel. You can see how the iron sights change a little bit and the hand placement changes just a little bit. But look at the background, not big difference, right? Like this just looks like whatever. But depending on the weapon, they have different optical zoom based off when you ADS. You kind of see it zooms in more. All I'm doing is going from an M4 to an MP5. So what will happen is with different guns, especially with Cold War versus Modern Warfare, a lot of the Modern Warfare guns are going to have different zooms than the Cold War ones, just because they were designed engine-wise. So there's scenarios that pop up where it makes it feel like your gun is zoomed in more or zoomed out, and that actually impacts how much movement you have across your screen. The similar effect happens when you put your FOV down to a console level or up to 120. A lot of times I was playing today on stream, people are like, how are you moving so fast? How are you moving so fast? Why does the movement look a little cracked out? I was like, well, I'm just doing exactly what you're probably doing on console. It just looks different because that FOV change. Typically when you raise the FOV, which is what's happening here, we're having an FOV change with the ADS. That's pretty much how much it's actually zooming in or out. And that will impact the aim assist because the size of the target will change, as well as how much space you're covering. So your sensitivity will dynamically also change. And that's why you typically have an ADS sense as well as a high and low zoom, so that you can modify it so that your sensitivity always feels like you're in control. So this is one of these placebo effects that's happening, and different guns will have these effects. So if we go over here, just to show you how big the difference is, I've traced out in red, not really bulky, but I'll go ahead and make it so you can see it a little bit better. So we have that outline rocking there. If I go ahead and remove this, you can see that even though the gun moves, because I put on collapsible stock or not, the actual size of the optic or the circle part changes, which we've known some of these things. But most people probably didn't know that when you equip specific guns here, let's go ahead and keep going. And we compare this to the M4. Look at how much more it zoomed in and how everything shifted over. Look at the size of the crate. Even if I shift this over, just as a comparison, so you can kind of see what's going on here, we can shift this over and look at the size of the crate. Look at how big the crate is. See how small, like the crate, this red crate fits inside. Look at the window. The window is tiny compared. If we level this up, look at how short the legs are right here. The FOV is having a huge difference in something like the M4 and the MP5. And we're experiencing these same effects within Cold War. And you'll see this when we go to the optics. This is the Pellington versus the Kar 98 with the same zoom. Look at the doors. Literally nothing moves. And when I switch back and forth, the lighting changes a little bit. But look at the actual line wall. We could put the red line across it. We'll go ahead and put outline again. So now it has outlines. So pay attention to these parts. See, this is perfectly aligned. See how this is aligned right here on the inside? This is aligned to the door. This is aligned to this door. This is aligned to this door. When I actually change optics, look what ends up happening. This is no longer aligned. See the edge here? So even though the other parts are actually aligned on the outside of the optic, the inside of the optic actually has a little bit more zoom, and it's zooming in a little bit further, or it has different optical zoom compared to each other. I went through, looked at Teep's clips. I took both the optics, and what I did is I basically overlaid him when he was at the exact same distance. When we check out here, if I line a line from the top of the head, look at, this is the top of the belt. This is more zoomed in because it's not at the top of the belt. The top of this thing, look at how the gap there, the right at the knee, look at how far it is up the knee. So this character model has zoomed in more, which because you're closer, as you drag across, that aim assist bubble is much larger within your actual scope, and it's not changing compared to your sensitivity. So when you're actually dragging across, it'll actually feel like you have more aim assist, because you kind of do, because your sensitivity dynamically changed based off your ADS and your zoom, the same way that we did with field of view. So what I wanted to do is do the same scenario, make sure that the MP5 on both the Cold War and the Modern Warfare have the same optical zoom. I've already overlaid those images, so I know that they have the same amount of zoom. If I overlay the backgrounds staring at the same thing, they have the same optical zoom, so there's no FOV nonsense going on. If you change certain barrels, certain attachments, if you're using different guns, they can run into these issues where it feels like it. But literally, if you put these side by side, I'm gonna do the 5 rotations, they're gonna do it at the exact same time, and you're gonna see that they end up hitting at the same mark right around the same time. And it doesn't, like, one would finish way further ahead. There was a 2-second discrepancy between the M4 and the MP5. And we did a bunch of other tests, which you're going to see the results right here. But I wanted to show off a couple different examples using optics, not using optics. So here was my initial testing. I thought I was going to go about it a different way. Pretty much I used the operator reflex because it said it was a 1x and the mill stop. And that led to a little bit of mixed results because it turns out after I did the testing, I overlaid them, they weren't lined up, but it still allowed us to figure out and come to this conclusion of how the zooms work. So these actually aren't all 1x, even though they say they're all 1x. You have to actually feel in game what the difference is. If it has a little bit more zoom, it's going to have a little bit more slowdown, even if it's like unnoticeable to your eye unless you overlap them, like the same thing we saw with the Pellington and the Car 98. So in this particular case, it took 13.197 seconds for the rotations with the M4. XM4 took 13 around. It's like a 50 millisecond difference, like 3 frames, not a huge difference. And when we compare these results with the scale FOV disabled, what we ended up getting was like an extra 200 milliseconds almost across the board, 150 to 200 milliseconds across the board, basically from the first results to the second. And that kind of tells us that the aim assist bubble is much bigger typically on when you disable it because it's not matching your actual FOV, so it'll keep it a little bit larger as if you saw the character larger, which for some people they might like that because then they're sticking within a larger bubble. But with the bubble being larger, sometimes it's harder to catch up to a target depending on how fast your aim assist is, because then you'll trail behind, and as soon as you hit that invisible wall of aim assist bubble, you'll slow down and you won't be able to catch the target. So more often than not, for most people, when they play at lower sensitivities, you're going to want that enabled if you have a higher FOV. If you're good, have high sense, you do whatever the heck works for you. But generally, that's kind of how it works. So regardless of what these actually say, you have to actually go in game to figure out how much they actually zoom. We've kind of known that there's a big discrepancy because the Axel 3X is the same as the sniper scope on the Car 98. And that just doesn't make any sense. If we go to the Car 98, the sniper scope, it has a 7x optic zoom, which we just saw it right now. They look like they zoom right around the same, but it doesn't look like that one's 2.5 times the 3x. That just doesn't make any sense at all. So you just got to figure out what works best for you at the end of the day, but just keep aware is certain guns can have a default lower zoom or higher zoom, even with just iron sights. I know that's a lot of information. If you enjoyed the video, learned something new, please do me a favor, hit the like button. If you're brand new, want to find your way back, double check, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. If you want to see one of the best players in Warzone, go ahead and check out TP's stream. He live streams pretty much every single day over on Twitch and post over on YouTube. Appreciate y'all supporting the content. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.